Well, interesting video that I haven't really been expecting to make right now. Luckily, I'm off school today because of parent-teacher conferences, which I never go to, especially since being a senior. Who really cares? But I didn't really expect to make this video in general today because expect to make a United Football League video in, what is this, October? We make those in March around here. But I feel like this is interesting enough to actually, make a video. The United Football League, obviously, with all the rumors, is changing. It's different. And I guess I'm going to be here to try to explain it all, I guess. It's a little hard because stuff's a little, scattered and stuff. But let's just go with the obvious here. There have been rumors for a while that basically the entire league was shifted. Every team would be gone except the Battlehawks and the Defenders, basically like that. However, the Birmingham Stallions, riled up enough support, whatever support they had, and they stayed, which is obviously the best case scenario for the league, because if you move the Birmingham Stallions, you basically throw away the entire league, even though the Battlehawks carry. However, 5 of the 8 teams have made a change. And 3 of the 8 teams have completely moved. No sound, but I'll let the video do the talking.
We are the
Well, I'm going to zoom into the little map. I suck at pausing. Alright, forget the map. So, the teams not affected. The St. Louis Battlehawks, obviously, the main heart of the UFL. While they have not won a championship yet, that is a very sad thing to say. The St. Louis Battlehawks are obviously the biggest and the main team of the league. And, of course, the other heart, the Birmingham Stallions, have not also had a change. That is mostly because they are the Birmingham Stallions and they won 3 straight championships in a row, both in the USFL and the UFL twice. Or was it the USFL twice and the UFL once? I think it was the USFL twice and the UFL once, because the UFL has only existed for 2 years, right? I don't know. It might have been 3. I don't have good memory. All I know is the Birmingham Stallions won 3 in a row. And, of course, the third team staying mainly to their traditions and their biggest crowds. Yeah, I say ish because, again, the Battlehawks have had 30K. The DC Defenders, with their beer snake, they are staying. Not moving, actually moving but not changing branding, are the Renegades. They moved from Arlington to Dallas, which is interesting. They obviously want a bigger market. While the Renegades are very popular, they won the first UFL championship. Yeah, I think it was UFL, XFL, or the Stallions won 2 UFLs in the XFL, or the UFL. This stuff gets confusing. Stallions won 2 USFLs and then the UFL the first year, because the first year the XFL was in existence, the Renegades won, which obviously is why probably they're not changing branding, because they won before. The Renegades, obviously, with one of the best QBs in the spring, Luis Perez, who I believe is gone now. They don't change branding. However, they stay in Texas But they don't stay in Arlington. They move over to Dallas, likely to get a bigger crowd. We'll see if that works. And 4 teams have changed. 4 teams have changed. You notice one of them hasn't moved? That is the former Houston Roughnecks. They are now the Houston Gamblers. Is gambling legal in Texas? Probably not. But they are named the Houston Gamblers, and they will now gamble all over Texas or something. Yeah. And of course, the Roughnecks have not been good, and they definitely needed a change. It's just interesting that they don't move, but they rebrand. You would expect a move and a rebrand, especially for a team that hasn't been showing that much support. I don't think. But, of course, we have lost 3 teams. We have lost the San Antonio Brahmas, even though they've had a pretty good run. You know, they made it to the championship, losing to the Stallions the first year. And, of course, defenders, Panthers, which ironically, the Panthers are dead, which obviously we'll get into that. But first, Brahmas. The San Antonio Brahmas, that one was second most surprising. Second most, I'd say. The Brahmas, good team, didn't rile up much support, but they were definitely a force in the league, I'd say. They even beat the Battlehawks in the XFL championship the first year, which is very sad. But they are gone now. Don't ask me what team they rebranded to. I actually don't know. I don't know. I'd have to look it up. Maybe someone on this app can tell me. We'll see. But the next team that they have changed and moved are obviously the Showboats, the Memphis Showboats. Worst team in the league by far. No one really cared about them. No one went to their games. Least surprising move of all time. No one cared about them. No one cared about them, really. Obviously, they had to go. Sorry to any former Showboat fans, if there were any. Your team sucked, both in-game and out of the game. And now you guys are gone. But finally, the most shocking one, and not because, in my opinion, the XFL just wanted to move them. I think it had more reasonable reasons. The Michigan Panthers, fresh off of a championship run, they did not win, obviously, the Defenders did. But fresh off a championship run, they were the most shocking team to be announced or be rumored to moving. However, that would have been the Stallions if they got moved. And even the UFL made a little save the Stallions kind of thing. I don't know, stadium rights or something. They wanted to move the Stallions and they didn't, and I'm pretty glad they did. But the Panthers, they're gone. Not, in my opinion, to UFL pressure, but in my opinion, to stadium pressure. Ford Feud, while it did generate 10,000, and it got their Lions, Jake Bates, which you got to be happy about. They're gone because they just could not afford leasing. Now, of course, fans have argued, oh, why didn't you go to a different stadium? It just wouldn't hit the same, in my opinion. So I understand why they did it. However, it's the most shocking. With those 3 teams departing from us, we have 3 new teams. We have the Orlando Storm coming out of Orlando, Florida. We have the Louisville Kings coming out of Louisville, Kentucky. And we have the Columbus Aviators coming out of the state of Ohio. Columbus, Ohio. These 3 teams will join us. And again, I'm not sure what and they can never say. They also changed his logo. The logo's different. I kind of like it. I don't know where these teams come from. They just kind of say. They kind of say. Yeah, they just kind of say where the teams come from. Anyway, so the reasoning for... Yeah, well, don't worry. I'll try to find that later. The reasoning for this change, they decided Columbus, Louisville, and Orlando because, in their opinion, they are true football cities, deep sports roots, and they're proud to bring professional football to these communities. Obviously, Columbus, they do not have a team. Louisville, they do not have a team. In Orlando, they do not have a team. However, both Columbus and Orlando are both in heavy football states. Obviously, Ohio. They've got the Ohio State Buckeyes. They've got the Cincinnati Bengals. They've got the Browns. Nobody cares about the Browns, but they've got the great Miami of Ohio. They've got Ohio. They've got the Ohio Bearcats. I mean, what could go wrong? Obviously, it's mainly the Ohio State, obviously. And Orlando, obviously, in Florida, one of the biggest markets in football besides Texas, which obviously Arlington moving to Dallas, definitely to cash in on some of that. Orlando is just another big part of football with the Jacksonville Jaguars, with the Miami Dolphins, with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, not even mentioning all the college teams like Miami, Florida State, Florida, teams like that. Obviously, big sports states, big football states. Louisville is interesting. They have the Louisville Cardinals. Kentucky doesn't really have much in terms of football, but we'll see how it goes. I would think maybe they basically have a Pennsylvania team. Let me go look at the map again.
The country.
I think maybe a California team if they expand again, because you can't really do that now considering they're all right there. Maybe a Georgia, maybe a Pennsylvania, maybe a New York instead of a Louisville. Might have been a little better, but we move. But back to what I was saying. They're proud to bring football to these communities. They say they're electric, fan-driven stadiums. I'd assume a lot of these stadiums are MLS stadiums, in my opinion, because MLS stadiums probably give them a best chance. They host like 10,000 people, and of course, the UFL is not big enough to bring in like 50. So they want smaller stadiums to show that people are supporting the league, and maybe they can make more moves. And they would like to create an authentic game day experience and strengthen the foundation of this league. Will that happen? Who the hell knows? Who knows? Really, who knows? I don't actually. But otherwise, I don't really have much else to say, to be honest. Maybe someone... Of course, they're going to be hating. Alright, trying to look for information on what teams get shifted. It looks like there is no more divisions. So, officially, after a couple years for the USFL and the XFL, they are both dead. There are apparently, I guess, just no divisions at all. Like, there's no East-West, there's no North-South, there's no nothing. Apparently, it's just no divisions at all, which, in my opinion, doesn't make sense because who are you going to play 3 times? 2 times in here. But apparently there's no divisions. Of course, no USFL, XFL makes sense because those teams are dead now. However, not having divisions in general and just having the top 4 make the playoffs doesn't really make sense to me. However, the kickoff is still March 7th. Right, so I really look. It looks like they haven't said any sort of anything. Says the league did not immediately provide information about which franchise would relocate to each city. So I don't think there's any information on that. So my bad. No information about who's who. It's very sad to me, but thank you anyways, USA Today. Anyway, that's really all I have to say. 1 markets 30-year college towns. 1 or 2 no professional sports teams that are in big cities. All 3 expansion markets will have stadiums that have 15 to 25K. Hopefully that'll happen to Phil. Who knows? He also explained why Wright brothers are from Dayton, Columbus Aviators. Louisville named to pay tribute to horse racing. Stallions obviously taken, so they went with Kings. He did not provide details with Storm, but Florida, Orlando, yeah, Hurricanes. Let's be honest. Renegades are Dallas, North Texas fan base. Houston Gamblers. That's because they wanted to go back to one of the old franchises from the 80s, the USFL. Because they think it's iconic. Jim Kelly played for the team. Oh. And there's no more conferences. Yeah. Nothing really too important. I explained basically everything. But anyway, that is all. I don't got much else to say. See you guys later, and peace.